Okay, so I'm starting this paper. This is October-November 2023, variant 3 to paper 3. And the first question that I have right here, it is of stored value cards can be used for making transactions, such as paying for travel on public transport or for buying food and drinks in cafes. I have a stored value card and it is used for making transactions such as paying for travel on public transport or for buying food and drinks in cafes. Explain the benefits of stored value cards. This is for 4 marks. Right here, I need to write down 4 different points for your stored value cards. Like some of the points can be, for example, your transaction can be really quick. So I can write here that your transaction can be quick and less hassle free because no authentication of user is required. Means you do not have to authenticate of the user. This is quite simple and easy. I can also write that by using stored value cards, like for example, your debit cards or credit cards. It makes transactions in less time, reducing the need for sorting cash. That means that you do not need to sort out the cash. You just need to carry out your simple card. You can also write that you do not have any cost overhead to the merchant, means that you do not have to make any additional cost, do not need to pay any additional cost to that. Another advantage is that can be that your merchant receives the payment immediately. Just as you swipe through the card, you can also write here that transactions can be processed offline as well. And it can be used for restricting payments to specific merchants as well. It's more secure, so you need to write here for 4 marks. For the B part, it says that describe 2 drawbacks of a stored value cards. So I need to write here it for 2 marks. That means that I need to write 2 marks. So first of all, I can write that user basically loses the monetary value on card if it is damaged or stolen before the expiry date. That means that this is basically a disadvantage to the user point, that if he has not used the card and it is already expired, so this might would lose its monetary value. There can be one more disadvantage in that, is that can be that these cards are not transferable between companies and businesses. Like, for example, if one company is offering you another card, You cannot transfer that to any other company or any other business. There can be more disadvantages to that, and that can be like no cap on charge because user is not identified. So there can be risk of frauds as well. Someone would never know that if he is that the owner of the exact card or not. So I hope the question one part is clear. In question number two, it is asking that these different methods can be used to make object appears to move in computer animation. Explain why keyframes are used in computer animation. So we have already given our P4 practical in Adobe Animate. So I hope that I do not need to explain that in detail. But right now I need to write here for 2 marks. So I can write that to define the starting and ending point of my movement in the animation. I can also write, I can use it to define the timings as well. So this is it for 2 marks. Describe how property keyframes are used in computer animations. I need to write here for 4 marks. So property animations, it basically specifies the properties and parameters of an object into a frame. I need to describe that how the property keyframes are used. So first point I can write here that they like property keyframes defines the properties or parameters of an object. This is my first point. The second point can be these property keyframes can be further changed or edited. I can also write that they can be used to create in between frames without the need to draw each frame individually. Means if you want to fit the frame into a sequence, you do not require it to create each frame individually. You can fix them into between them. They are also used to ensure that your animation and speed is consistent and accurate. This is it for 4 marks regarding property keyframes. You can stop me anytime if you have any queries. The third part says that bitmap images can be compressed when stored and used on computer systems. Analyze the effect of the two main methods of image compressing on bitmap image. This is for 6 marks, and the question has asked you to analyze. So whenever you have this word analyze into your exam, that means that you are requested to examine in detail, means that you need to identify the relationship between these two impacts and analyze the effects of the two main methods of image compression on a bitmap image, and those two methods are to be known as your lossless. This is for total 6 marks. So First of all, you can deliver your answer like I have written directly, but it would be much preferable if you can write like this. For example, the two methods of image compression are lossy and lossless compression. So in terms of your lossless compression, you need to write here some points so that you can get your total 6 marks. So in lossless image, I know that the actual quality of my image is not lost. So I can write here that all of my image information is stored as it is, means no image information is lost because it is stored as it is. And you can also write that your image can be recreated perfectly back. This is an example of a reversible compression. You can also write that you have no loss of quality. Your image can be reconstructed back. And whereas in terms of losses considered, now you can write here that image quality is reduced or blurred. You can also write that information is lost during compression, is lost during compression. You can also write that you cannot revert back to original form because once compressed, you cannot go back. This is not a reversible one. You can also write that the last point for this image is altered or changed. So this is it for 6 marks. More than that, so you will, if you are delivering your answer like this in the questions of analyzing, that means that you have to examine the two impacts. So this is how you are going to do that. Then in the next question, you have a cellular networks are used to provide mobile communication for user. Describe the structure of a cellular network. You need to describe the structure of a cellular network. So when I'm talking about a cellular network, you should be knowing that I have base stations. Those base stations are based on your wireless connections, and they are connected with a central switch network, and that's how we call each other. So for 3 marks, you can write here that base stations are established for wireless connection. You can write that they are connected to the central network or central switched network for handling calls or messages. And you can also write that they uses packet switching. They uses packet switching for handling traffic. For the B part, it says that explain how cellular network allows a large number of mobile cell phones to connect without interference from other mobile cell phones. That means that if you're going to look and see that there are millions of users connecting to each other, connecting to phone calls, how this is even possible without getting disturbed with each other. So you need to write here for 4 marks, and one thing you need to focus here is that I am writing the answer based on my marks. So make sure that you write your answers based on to that, and you save your time as well. Means that if it's for 4 marks, you do not need to write for more than 4 points. So I'm just going to write 4 points in here. So first of all, I can say that my cellular network connections, they basically uses frequency divisions among areas. That means that they have a different frequency set, or they might have a different port or a different time to share and connect with the each of the frequency. You can also write that antenna from base station is used to avoid interference from other towers. You can also write that adjacent cells use different frequencies to prevent from each other. You can also write that wireless frequencies are reused again and again to increase capacity. So this is it for 4 marks. You are preventing yourself from interference. Now, the next question, which is question number 5, it says that users may connect their smartphone to a local area network. Describe 2 reasons why a wireless connection to a local area network may not be secured as a wired connection. So, first of all, for 2 marks, this is quite easy. I can say that connection may not be encrypted, or I can also write that connection may not require a password, and if that's the case, anyone can connect to that. I can also write that my access points can be accessed by unauthorized users. This is the reason that it's not as secure as a wired connection. Explain how secure a Wi-Fi connection is established and maintained between a smartphone and a local area network. You need to write this for 6 marks, and you need to correspond the relationship and maintain it between a smartphone and a local area network. So first of all, you need to write it for 6 marks. You can definitely write that users select Wi-Fi connection from users select Wi-Fi connection from a list of available connections. They are connected to it through a router or access point. It uses radio waves or signals to transmit frequency or to carry data packets from one place to another. This is for 3 marks. For 4 marks, you can, fourth point, you can say that Wi-Fi uses data packets smartphone sends authenticated frames or authenticated data packets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last, you can write that users' data is encapsulated. Encapsulated means that it is secured. Like, for example, if you have uh, seen an example of a capsule, encapsulation means that you are encapsulating your data, you are making it secure within your data frames using security protocols that has to be sent and received. So this is it for 6 marks. You have explained that how a secure Wi-Fi connection is maintained between a smartphone and the local area network. So you have described that how it is connecting and how much it is secure. In the sixth part, it's about a JavaScript. It says that loops in a JavaScript repeatedly execute block of code. Describe how a for loop works in a JavaScript code. So basically, looping means that you are working onto that until that condition is met. So first thing I can write that loop continue until that required condition is met. For the second point, I can write that loop may continue till forever, even if the condition is not satisfied. You can also write that loop works through a block of code. Loop requires to have expressions or statements which have to be executed. Or you can also write that at the end of the loop, it increments the variable You can also write your declaration part as well. I am writing here in points. You can explain it when you solve it your own. You can write your increment part. You can write your declaration part. You can also write your variables part as well. So this is going to be your 4 marks. Contrast the use of while and do while loop in JavaScript code. This is simple and easy that while loop tests condition at the beginning of the loop, whereas do while tests the condition at the end. You can also write that code in a while loop may never be executed because that's a condition and there's a chance if it is to be executed or not. Like meanwhile, if the situation is that we discussed this into our class, whereas do while always executes at least once. This is done as well. Now, question number 7. Question number 7 is saying that in JavaScript, an object is defined as a collection of properties which can be amended or deleted. Describe how an object may be given a new property. So, a new property may be added by declaring a value into something. Describe how the properties of an object in JavaScript can be displayed using a loop. So you can write here that use of for loop in your JavaScript. You can display the properties of an object. You can also define a variable for storing properties and then displaying them. For the third part, you can also specify the object to be examined and you can use code to pass results to HTML for displaying properties. That means that you are writing some piece of code into your JS and you are sending that to your HTML so that you can display the properties. Question number 8 is regarding a healthcare organization has centers in different towns and cities. The organization uses a network computer system that allows healthcare professionals to access patients' records and appointments from any center. The user interface for accessing patient's record and appointment is going to be replaced. The organization is considering using pilot implementation. Evaluate the use of pilot implementation to replace the user interface for the computer system. And this question is for 8 marks. So, pilot implementation is okay. So, wait, here you are requested to evaluate. So, I just discussed with you that whenever you have an analyze part, that means that you need to examine it. But here you have the word evaluate. Now, evaluate means that you need to judge that question, or you are requested to calculate the overall quality, importance, or amount, or the pros and cons of to that. That means that you are requested to evaluate, you are requested to judge. So for this part, as per your paper and your marking scheme, you are requested to write, uh, for example, it's for 8 marks. So that means that you need to write 8 points, and those 8 points can be, for example, like some points could be in favor of that, and some points could be on against of that. But on a total, you need your 8 points. So let's start this. The first point I can say that I am going to write some points like in terms of that, like for. And before on moving on to that, uh, you should also discuss the pilot implementation. I think we have discussed this into our last chapter, the pilot implementation. And pilot implementation is implementing the change in one center before implementing the change in other one. So we have discuss this quite in detail, that if I'm going to segment it, or if I'm going to break it down into an organization, like for example, if some people are going to have the full advantage of a newer software and some people might not have it, it might create a sense of like belongingness. Like for example, if they have the opportunity or they have the authority to use that. So right now I'm talking about this pilot implementation. So for the first part, you can definitely describe that what do you think that what pilot implementation is, and in the second area, you can start by referring to their points like in the for part. First point can be problems in one facility can be dealt quickly. If this class ends, you can join it back again. It reduces overall problems. You can also write that users have access to a newer system, and this new system might reduce difficulties or burden of your earlier system. You can also write that work